आपस में बैर रखना मजहब नहीं सिखाता, आपस में बैर रखना। हिंदी है हम, हिंदी है हम, हिंदी है हम। वतन है हिंदुस्तान हमारा।
Pranay, slide. Namaskar. A very good afternoon to one and all present today. I, Aarti Shah, take the privilege of welcoming our guests, founders, coordinators, and our members to this August afternoon. Let's evoke the blessing of the Almighty with a devotional prayer and bhajan by Miss Pallavi Anchuri. Over to you, Pallavi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
It's audible.
Okay. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Bhajan?
Yeah, can I start? Happy Janmashtami to all. On this occasion, I'm going to recite one Krishna bhajan. Tanto mandir hai hridai vrindavan. Tanto mandir hai hridai vrindavan. वृंदावन में है बसे राधिका किशन, तो मंदिर है हृदय वृंदावन। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे कृष्णा। दिल को अंधकार है किसे से तू निकल, ज्ञान का प्रकाश कर संभल राधा कृष्ण के चरण में नित्य कर नमन तन तो मंदिर है वृंदावन वृंदावन में है बसे राधिका कृष्ण तन तो मंदिर है वृंदावन हरे कृष्णा 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 Thank
That
you.
was so serene. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I now take pleasure of inviting our dynamic president, Miss Usha Bhagia, to address the gathering. Over to you, Usha. Usha cannot hear you. Can you unmute? Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to our chief guest, Major General Ravi Khetarpal, founders, coordinators, guests, and the members. Let me first announce the demise of our member, Santosh Lakhotia's father and father-in-law. Our heartfelt condolence to the family. On the eve of the 74th pre-independence, I extend my warm greetings to all of you and compliment and thank all those whose dedication, hard work, sacrifice, and enterprising zeal have given India, freed India from the colonial rule. Women have played a very significant role pre-independence and post. Today, women are very successful and they have excelled in all the fields. They have driven. I'm sorry. They have gone to the space. They've gone to the space. They have taken they have flown the aircrafts. They have produced the test tube babies. And today's we're going to discuss the women in army. See, when I first heard army and I had to invite the army general, I always thought army means just everybody going to the battlefield and fighting. So in fact, when I went to meet Major General Ravi Khetarpal, first question I asked was, when you go to the battlefield? So he said he belonged to the EMI, that's the engineering department. And as a civilian, as an layman, I didn't know that army for me meant was going to the battlefield. So the women play a very important role even in the army. So he is chief guest is going to enlighten us on that subject. And ladies, our next month's program will be the very unique festivals which is celebrated by the particular community. Like Pola is celebrated only by the Maharashtrians. Then we have Atukula Pangalo that is celebrated by the women of Kerala. That's the largest religious, procession by the women. Heavy jewelry and the traditional attire. And also they have I think they have a tulip festival in Jammu. That is the onset of spring. So this is our next program in September. And ladies, I must thank all of you for being there. Your encouragement, your support mean a lot to me. And our last two meetings have been really successful. There have been a tremendous attendance. And let's all keep connected like this till the situation become normal. So my humble request to all of you, please spare 1.5 hours of every month for our meeting. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Thank you. Over to Aarti.
Thank you, Usha. Members who have not joined the audio, please join. I think Aruna ji is not joined through audio. I now invite Secretary Ms. Mansi Kankaria to share the minutes of the last meeting with us. Over to you, Mansi.
Hello everyone. I'm here to announce the minutes of July 2020 meeting. We had the pleasure to learn lovely Ikebana creations by 3 experts, Meenakshi Devi, Rekha Reddy and Sharda Reddy. Thank you members. The attendance was in full and I'm sure all of you all enjoyed the meeting. I also am here to announce some happy moments. of our members who have become grandparents. Ms. Shilpa, Ms. Parul Modi, and Ms. Meera Badruka are blessed with healthy grandbabies. Congratulations. Thank you, Aarti.
Thank you, Mansi. I now request our advisor, Ms. Kavita Bhatia, to introduce our chief guest, Major General Ravi Khetarpal ji. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you, Aarti. Namaskar and good afternoon, friends. A very warm welcome to you at Sanskruti, sir. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce to you our very first Major General as our guest from the Armed Forces. Major General Ravi Khetarpal is a highly qualified mechanical engineer with advanced specialization in military armament engineering. He is an MSc in Defense Studies, an MPhil in Defense and Management Studies, and an MBA in Human Resources Management. The General Officer has held many sensitive and prestigious appointments during his illustrious Army career spanning over 36 years. He is the recipient of the Vashishtha Seva Medal awarded by the President of India. He has been honored with the Chief of Army Commendation Card, among other awards. Sir has held many Army appointments, which include Commanding Officer of a battalion, providing engineering support in an active counter-insurgency environment in Manipur, Group Testing Officer at Service Selection Board, Colonel Military Secretary, instructor at the prestigious Defense Service Staff College, training Indian and foreign armed forces officers, Major General ENE, responsible for executing engineering support in peace and war for army equipment, including tanks, vehicles, and guns of all caliber, Deputy Commandant, Chief Instructor of the Military College EME. His role in the public sector as Chairman and MD of a defense public sector undertaking, Bharat Dynamics Limited, saw a growth of 400% growth in the company's order book. And the list goes on. Sir, it is indeed an honor to have you with us today. Thank you. Aarti, over to you.
Thank you, Kavita. I am so excited to hear from you, Major General. Somebody asked me a few days before, what comes for you first, nation or a religion? And I quickly replied that my religion teaches me your nation will always come first. With this, I welcome our chief guest, Major General Ravi Khetarpal ji, to share his experience and learning with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies. It is a real pleasure and honor to be interacting with you all today on a subject which is very close to my heart, that is the Indian Armed Forces, and in particular to women in the armed forces. At the outset, I would like to thank Srimati Usha Bhagia, Srimati Hira Rupani, committee members, and the Sanskruti team for having invited me over to this Zoom meeting. You'll be very happy and proud to know that women have excelled in various fields in the armed forces. We have 3 officers from the Medical Corps who have risen to the rank of Lieutenant General, which is the highest rank you can achieve in the armed forces. We had Lieutenant General Puneet Arora. She was the first woman to command the Armed Forces Medical College at Pune. We had Air Marshal Padmavati Bandyopadhyay. She was also awarded the Padma Shri and was the first woman from the Air Force to conduct scientific studies in the North Pole. We have Lieutenant General Madhuri Kanitkar, who rose to become the Director General of the Armed Forces Medical Service. 2 of our young lady officers have also won gallantry awards. Flight Lieutenant Gunjan Saxena, the first woman helicopter pilot to fly in a combat zone, and she flew her helicopter in Kargil during the operations. And because of that, she was awarded the Shaurya Chakra, which is the 3rd highest award a woman can get for gallantry. Apart from that, we had Lieutenant Colonel Mithani. This girl was posted in Afghanistan, and she saved 19 Indian personnel of the Indian embassy when the Indian embassy was bombed by terrorists a few years ago. Well, in addition to all these, in sports and adventure also, we have had 4 record holders. Flight Lieutenant Nivedita, she summited Everest in 2012. We had Flight Lieutenant Deepika, the first woman to fly in an Indian Air Force helicopter aerobatic team, the Sarang. You may have seen it on TV at some point of time. Then we had Lieutenant Commander Vartika. She led a 5-member team of all of women, and they sailed around the world a few years ago in 2018. And Captain Shikha, who is the first woman to be a stunt rider on a motorcycle with the other male members of the team from the Corps of Signals. In fact, initially when he showed the video, there was a video of all of them on top of motorcycles in a pyramid formation. This team holds 24 world records and also a Guinness record. So you see, the women in the armed forces are no less than the men. But what makes the armed forces so attractive? Why do women want to join? Well, apart from the adventure and excitement, which I've just given you examples, the most important is job security. In 1992, when the Women Short Service Entry Scheme started, it was only for a period of 5 years. And we all thought that the women after 5 years would leave. But the women were so keen to continue that the government decided to extend it to 10 years. Subsequently, it is now extended to 14 years. So all short service women can serve for 14 years. Recently, in February, the Supreme Court has given directions that women will also be allowed to get a permanent commission in the Indian Army. That means now they can serve right through the Indian Army as a career and retire at the age of 54 or 56 or 58, depending on what rank they reach. If they reach Lieutenant General, they retire at the age of 60, which is the same for the male counterparts. The second attractive thing is there is a financial security. When a girl joins the Officers Training Academy for her training, her starting stipend is rupees 56,000 rupees, which is a very good start. And after that, the day she gets commissioned, she rises to the rank of lieutenant immediately, a captain in 3 years, a major in 6 years, a lieutenant colonel in 13 years, and so on. And with each rank, she gets much more financial benefits. Of course, there are excellent opportunities also in the armed forces. Although you get to see the most of India, because you're posted every few years all over India, there are a very good chance of also joining the Indian training teams and the other teams which are called by the United Nations to help out in peacekeeping operations all over the world. We've had 50 missions so far, and you'll be happy to know that we've had girls who have gone to Israel, Congo, Nigeria, Sudan, Eritrea, etc. Holidays or leave. Well, unlike any other organization in this country, all of us, and women especially, are entitled to an annual leave for 2 months every year. In addition, if there is a crisis at home or there's an emergency, you get 20 days of casual leave. So you could still go home, look after your parents or children or something like that. And on maternity, you get 6 months of leave like they do everywhere else. Apart from that, of course, there are excellent facilities for sports and adventure. As I mentioned a few things, we have excellent coaches who can guide you and guide the children also. Parasailing, skydiving, tennis, golf, swimming, horse riding, polo, etc., etc. We have excellent canteen facilities, as you are aware, where items of day-to-day necessities are given at reduced rates. And we have a medical care right through your service and till the day you retire. Even after that, you can continue from the military hospitals and the base hospitals we have all over the country. For women, there is a lot of camaraderie. We have a monthly ladies' meet like you have in Sanskruti. We also have something similar where the ladies are given, cooking classes are given. They exchange recipes. There are demonstrations on various things, flower ailments like ikebana, bonsais, and personal grooming classes are also conducted for all the ladies so that there's a development of their personality. There are even lectures conducted on various current affairs, social affairs, medical things and all that. Then we also have an organization called the Army Wives Welfare Association, the AWA. This is an all India association, and this conducts similar training for the wives and families of people who are below the officers level. That is the Jawan's wife and the Jawan's wife families. Once you retire, you get a pension for life, you get a medical cover for life, and there's very good scope for lateral absorption, that is into the corporate industries or into the other industries. Now a little bit on how does one join if somebody is interested in joining, and what is her life like thereafter? Well, graduates who have done their MBBS or the dentistry or the law, they can join the Army Medical Corps. We have the Army Dental Corps. We have the Judge Advocate General's branch, which is basically the law branch of the Army, where you could join. If you're a technical graduate who's done his BE or BTech, you could join the technical side of the Army, like I am, in the Corps of the Electronics and Mechanical Engineers, EME. Or you could join the Corps of Engineers, which does the road building, the mine laying, and laying of the bridges as and when called for in the forward areas. And the Corps of Signals, which does all the telecommunication, especially when we cross over into the enemy territory, where there'll be no communications available from that side. If you're a non-technical girl and your 12th class pass, there's also scope to appear in an all India exam conducted by the CDSE, the UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, and you could join the non-technical streams of the Army. This is primarily, you have to do an exam which is basically general science and English, and a merit list is drawn up. After that, you go to a services selection board, where for 4 days you're tested on various aspects, including psychology, to see whether you're mentally and physically fit to be in the armed forces. And then you go through a medical. And then a final merit list is drawn up. Once selected, you go to the Officers Training Academy at Chennai. There, the girls undergo 11 months of rigorous training, military training and physical training. And you'll be very happy to know that last year, a lady cadet, Divya Kumar, she won the award for the best all-round cadet, beating 200 other batchmates, mostly males, and was given the coveted Sword of Honor, which is a record in history. Once you're commissioned as a lieutenant, then you get posted every 2 to 3 years to either forward area, what we call the field areas, or to a city, a nice big city like Hyderabad, Delhi, every Bangalore, depending on the requirements of the Army. The idea of posting you for every 2 years to all over the country is that you get to see the other type of the country, the rest of the country, and you also get to train to fight in that type of terrain if required. Postings are normally for 2 to 3 years. Even for children too, there are so many facilities what are given to the adults, apart from scholarships and grants for deserving children. We also have the Kendriya Vidyalayas and the army schools in stations all over India, where because of the frequent postings, you're guaranteed admission the minute you are posted to that station. Of course, once you retire, you get a pension for life and medical cover. And medical cover is not only restricted to yourself, it is to your children, to your spouse, and if your dependent parents are, for example, staying with you, they are also looked after. The medical facilities are free, the medicines are also free. Well, that's all I have to say. And to sum up, I think the Army is it's a lovely job with excellent opportunities. And as they say, once a soldier, always a soldier. And for people like us, they say, old soldiers never die, they just fade away. Well, I'd like to thank you all for giving me an opportunity and a patient hearing. I'd like to wish you all a happy Janmashtami, as also a happy Independence Day. If there are any questions you'd like to ask about the armed forces, you're welcome to.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you, sir, for the words of wisdom and gratitude. Your encouraging words mean a lot to us. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Friends, along with Major General Ravi Khetarpal ji, we have a member, very talented and well-spoken, Miss Hira Rupani, who will be moderating the session for us. Welcome, Hira Rupani. We are so looking forward for the amazing time ahead. Friends, we have a small surprise for you. So once we start the session, You can shoot up your questions in the chat box. The best questions will be judged as the Lady Sanskruti. So think and type, friends. Over to you, Hira Rupani.
Namaskar to everyone. Namaskar, Major General Ravi Khetarpal ji.
Namaskar ji.
You have really covered almost all the topics what I had thought about, but the major part was the glamour. There's so much of glamour also with the armed forces. One of the major basic questions will be, how do women manage homes and families, especially when husbands are away? When you were away at the border, how did the family manage?
Okay, I'll give you an example. Actually, the army looks after its own. We are very well organized and we look after the families. When a husband is posted to a forward area and the families have to stay back, like in my case, both my girls were in 10th and 12th class and they had to stay back in Secunderabad, and I got posted from Secunderabad to Manipur, where there's not much of education. It's a very sort of a counterinsurgency area, a little dangerous area to be in for the families. Well, here they have something called separated family accommodation. This is like a colony where houses are earmarked for the families to stay where the husbands are not available. Now, in that also, what they do is they provide security. Army guards are there 24 hours. There are a whole lot of families staying together. So, they're all bonding with each other. Apart from that, the groceries are delivered at home. Nowadays, of course, you have all these people coming to your house, but once upon a time, nothing was there. And now we have groceries delivered by the Army Service Corps. Apart from that, if there's a requirement of transport, one could always call for the unit transport. And in an emergency, the transport would be provided. And then we have duty officers. So they also come and visit every day and see if any of the ladies has any peculiar problem which has to be solved. And then the army or the unit looks after the lady. Now, in my case, when I was in the field area and my wife and children were here, and both in the 10th and 12th class, so my wife really, she had to finally take classes and learn how to drive a car. And thereafter, because she had to take the children for tuitions, she had to take the children for extra classes and things like that. So she learned how to drive a car, she became independent. And so, slowly, all the ladies who stay separately, and they've been posted a number of times to various places on and off like this, they become very mentally tough and they become sort of self-confident and they learn how to manage. And the organization is always there to back you up to look after.
Okay, now let us go to the glamour side of the army. Can you name a few of the so-called big Bollywood heroines from the armed forces, families, as well as people who are not in the armed force and not in the Bollywood? Like I know you told about Priyanka Chopra, Shushmita Sen, Aishwarya Rai, and Anushka Sharma.
Yeah.
But I would like to know more about the other part, not only the Bollywood, but also the other fields.
Okay, because of the wide exposure the children have all over the country, they become very confident and all-rounded personalities. Also, they get a chance to take part in all these sports events, so they pick up some sports which are, not very common, like horse riding or golf or things which are not very, the usual thing. I can just quote a few examples. One of the top bureaucrats we had in our country, Nirupama Rao, she was the Foreign Secretary of India for a number of years. So she's the daughter of a Fauji. Apart from that, your local politician, our famous Renuka Chaudhary, she herself is the daughter of an Air Commodore of the Air Force. Then in the social field, you'll be surprised to know, Sister Nirmala Joshi, she's now, of course, late. She was the one who replaced Mother Teresa in the Missionaries of Charity. She is also the daughter of the armed forces, you can say. Apart from that, designers, Ritu Berry, she is one of the designers, which you're familiar with. Authors, in fact, my batchmate's daughter, Neena Rai, she's a very good author and she's writing a book presently on amazing Ayodhya. And she's covering the history of Ayodhya over the last 600 years. And she's done 5 years of research, and she's also sat down and learned Sanskrit so she could interpret these old books in the right way rather than in a distorted fashion as people like you to do. And she's bringing out this book, in fact, on Diwali Day. It's called Amazing Ayodhya. In sports person, we had Deepa Malik. She, in the paraplegic games in the Rio Olympics, she won a silver medal in the javelin throw, and later she's won gold in shot put and things like that. She's been awarded the Arjuna Award and a Padma Shri. In golf, we've had our famous Milkha Singh, you are all aware. In fact, he was from the EME Center in Secunderabad only, from my core, the EME. And his son, G. Milkha Singh, he's an international golfer for many years. So in golf, we have him. In TV and media, I'm sure all of you have had enough of Arnab Goswami. Well, he's also an armed forces product. And Rahul Kanwar, who's the youngest president of India today. He conducts the shows every evening in the news if you listen to it. Karan Thapa was one of the old TV presenters and anchors. He's also very famous. He was son of General Thapa. Even abroad, children who have studied in Hyderabad, I'll give you a surprise. There was a boy who studied in Hyderabad, public school, studied in Osmania University, did his BCom, went to London, and has now become world famous as the producer of Cobra beer. He's Lord Karan Bilimoria. His father was General Bilimoria, who happened to be my boss in Staff College at Wellington. And Karan was a young boy then. And now he's got an MBE also, member of the British Empire. And the sales of Cobra beer is one of the best in UK. In fact, even Rakesh Sharma, squad leader, our astronaut, he is also studied from Osmania University and was our batchmate in grammar school. So there's a lot of correlation with Secunderabad, Hyderabad too, by great people.
With the armed
Apart
forces.
from, yeah, in the armed forces. Well, in banking, I can be proud to say that my own daughter, she's in London. She's the vice president, human resources for Deutsche Bank for a number of years. And my batchmate's daughter, Shilpa Singh, is a partner in McKinsey's bank, again in London. So in short, our children basically, I mean, they have such an excellent exposure that any field they go to, they're very confident. And of course, the glamour world stands out the best because you've already listed out so many, but there's so many more, you know, like Gul Panag and others, Kiran Kher, they're Lara Datta, they're also from the glamour world. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
It's a lot, it's a huge list.
Yeah, but they're all outstanding.
Can you also speak about the social causes in the armed forces, such as the Army Wives Welfare Association, AWA, like you already mentioned?
Yeah.
So what are the social causes they cover? So they're very
Okay.
connected to social causes.
Okay, you know, one is, of course, we participate regularly in, like earlier used to have the Red Cross melas. So we used to go there, we used to participate, and whatever proceeds were there were given to the Red Cross as a social sort of a benefit. Apart from that, we also have a lot of equipment displays during the Army Flag Day, that is in December. We used to have exhibitions and all, although nowadays that those have been discouraged because of, you know, threats of terrorism and all those sort of things, of gathering of people. But otherwise, every year we used to conduct an equipment display. So all the children, the local children from the villages and all could come and see how the armed forces function and all. Then we have an excellent thing because we are deployed all along the borders, in the remote areas, in the mountains and villages. Our medical officers, ladies and gents, doctors and all, they go to all these villages where there is no medical facility, and they conduct medical camps. They conduct dental camps for the wives, the children, the old people living in those far off villages, Nagaland or Manipur, borders of Rajasthan and things like that. Of course, we have the AWA, which is a formal organization. It's a voluntary non-profit organization, and that is headed by the wife of the Chief of the Army Staff as the president. And it has offices all over India in every major cantonment. And these ladies, primarily for the children and wives and the war widows of our brave soldiers who have died, for their families to sort of build them up, build up their personalities, give them vocational training, give them financial stability, counseling if required, and things like that. Also, basically welfare of our Jawans' families and the widows. In addition to that, they also give scholarships and financial grants to them. In fact, they've had, over a period of years, they've had 37 different Asha schools. These Asha schools are primarily for the, differently abled children of armed forces personnel. So a lot of voluntary work is done to train them, to bring them up and things like that, make them confident and build up their confidence, basically. In addition, all over India, we've set up almost 56 hostels for boys and girls. Because a lot of our Jawans who are posted in the borders, the families stay back in the villages, but they all want their children to have good education. So they want the children to be in better stations like Hyderabad or somewhere. So we've set up these boys and girls hostels, 36 plus 10, I think, or approximately 46 of them, where these children come and stay. They're provided free books, free schooling, free accommodation, and they are taught by our education branch people, tuitions and things like that to build them up. Well, these are some of the measures which AVA is basically also conducting, apart from the other thing which I told you, where since we are involved in the country everywhere deeply, very closely, and we are regarded and respected everywhere, people have a lot of confidence and faith in us to look after them. That's all I have to say. Anything else you'd like to ask?
Yeah, can you share a few of your personal experiences at the borders when you were one experience which was very impactful in your life?
Okay. I've been posted in 36 years. I've been posted 22 times. And unlike the police where the posting is a punishment, here it is to develop you, to build you up, to make you confident in fighting in all types of areas. So I've been in Kashmir. I've been in the deserts of Rajasthan, right on the border ahead of Jaisalmer, Barmer, sitting across, right on the line of control, or the international border. In the east, I've been to Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, Tripura. I was looking after those areas for the engineering support to the armed forces who were deployed all over there. Well, we've got to adjust to whichever place you go to. And all of the state government, local government gives you a lot of support. But you have to learn to fend for yourself. Like in places like Manipur, Nagaland, even today, there's a lot of insurgency. Whenever you move out, you're never sure you'll come back because there may be an ambush in between, or they blow up an ID. Like in Kashmir, you've heard about it in the news. So all the time you have to be totally alert and prepared. You have to carry your weapons inside your vehicles. In fact, we have to dress up like civilians. We use vehicles which are painted because everyone uses Jeeps. They love to use Jeeps. So we paint our garis also in like Jeeps. And they all have crosses in the front saying Jesus saves. But most of them are Christian. So we also put crosses and say, God bless us, Jesus saves, is that. And we move around because there's no other way to move around. Whether you have to buy groceries or shop or purchase items for repair of your vehicles and things like that. So, well, you have a prayer on your lip, you keep your fingers crossed, and you do your 2 years there. But we are trained. If there's an ambush, we're trained how to counter it. And the intelligence reports come and we are prepared for it. So this is just one experience in Manipur where I've stayed for 2 years, lost a lot of hair by the time we came back from there. Okay. Anything else you'd like to ask?
So one of the other questions I would ask is how we as women contribute to the armed forces personnel on the 74th Independence Day of India.
Well, what I could say, not specifically only on the 74th, but generally how you could contribute is one. Firstly, of course, I just mentioned about the widows and the armed forces children, the ex-servicemen. So if you all can organize or tell your husbands, because many of them are industrialists and working in very prominent positions, whether they can employ these people after they retire. Because the Jawan of ours, he serves only for 25 years. He joins at 20, he leaves at 45. And that is the time when the children are going into college. There are family requirements, money is required. And that is the time he has to leave because we want to keep a young army. So therefore, if you all take them, they are highly trained, they're very disciplined, they're very loyal to the organization. You will get sort of trained people And we have people in all trades, like in the engineering side, we've got carpenters, painters, welders, people who can repair guns, tanks, radio sets, computers. So all these sort of people, we have these recruiting directorates all over in Sikandrabad, Hyderabad, everywhere. And Rajya Sainik boards, we call them. If you contact them, they will contact these Jawans and all, as and when you require people. You can say, I need a plumber or an engineer or a carpenter or a painters, and you can hire these people. So that'll be a great thing for picking up these people. Apart from that, there's also, you can contribute to the National Defense Fund, which is there, some financial benefit, because that finally goes down to the welfare of our Jawans and widows and things like that. And third is, when we have a lot of our Jawans are in the field area, the families are in villages. Now there are a lot of unscrupulous elements, the mafia, who trouble them, who try to grab their land. They have just 1 acre, half acre of land. But the widows or the ladies are alone, so the chaps put pressure on them and try to throw them out and push them. So when we approach the local administration, again, many of you all must be having people in the IAS or the Indian Police Service as district collectors and senior most people. So when we approach them, we'll be very happy if you all can give a sort of a, hear what that person has to say, or that widow has to say, or that lady has to say, and try to help him out of the ordinary, not in the normal line. So these are small things which are very nice if you could do these for the armed forces person. I think that's all we need. Just a little bit of getting back from you all.
So I have some nice questions here from the audience.
Yes, please.
And so Anjani Shah says, the question is, which is the best training center in India? Is it difficult to get in?
No, you see, I told you that we've got various branches of the army. We have the dental corps, the medical corps, every corps from the engineers and EME, like I'm from the EME. We have different centers. And people, depending on what profession you want to go into, which side of the armed forces you want to go into, you can apply there. Of course, if you're going as an officer level, you have to appear in an all India exam, like I said. Otherwise, you apply to the recruitment directorate in Army headquarters. So if you want to join, let's say, the EME as a technical graduate, you apply to the recruiting directorate. They will conduct an exam, I told you, and you'll be sent to the OT if you come out in the merit list. So depending on the line you want to join, we have training centers all over the country, and you can apply. You can always write to them. Otherwise, you can get on the website of the Indian Army, that indianarmy.gov.in, government.india. And you'll come to know all the vacancies and the various arms and the various services, and you could apply accordingly. And the dates and time of the exam, everything is given to you. So it depends on what you want to join, but there's adequate opportunities. And these exams are conducted twice a year, generally in January, February, and about June, July. Yeah, anything else? I hope it's answered that question, otherwise she can ask anything more.
The next question is by Sheetal Shah. Her question is, do generic daily life instincts help in the field or in the technical fields? Do the approaches differ among the group members, and how are they handled?
Okay. Well, let me tell you, we had a lot of respect for women right from the beginning. Before women were allowed to join the armed forces traditions of all armies in the world is greatest respect for ladies. In fact, if you go to an officer's mess, even if a general is sitting there and a young captain or lieutenant's wife comes in, she's a very junior lady, they have just joined, they've got married, still that general officer will get up, wish her, and make her sit down, and then sit down. So these sort of traditions have continued. Now, when women have joined the armed forces, the traditions are not stopped. In official dealings, yes, she is my junior. She has to know her position. A captain is junior to a major, and a major is junior to a lieutenant colonel. So all those protocols and hierarchy has to be maintained. But as far as respect is concerned, looking after a woman, her safety, her security, prime importance for all of us. And if there's anybody who even goes slightly out of the way, he's given a big danda. So things are brought back into the mainstream very fast. So we've never had instances of harassment of women, or very rare, it may be out of the blue. But we never have instance, and the ladies are looked after equally. It is only now that the women wanted to join the combat forces. Now we still do not want to put women right into the fighting arm, right on the border facing Pakistan and China. Because recently you saw in the Galwan Valley how skirmishes can take place. Now you cannot have a woman there when there are 200 Chinese and you're facing about 150 jawans of ours. So at this point of time, we have not got women into the combat arms, but in the engineering side, the services, everywhere, we are bringing in women. And they have, once she's an officer, a major or colonel, she's given all the regard, all the salutes and all the respect.
One more question is like, what's happening? How do we get to know only through the media, which I think is filtered? What really happens at the borders is filtered when we get through the media.
Okay, it's not really filtered in that sense. What is happening today with the type of media we have and the mobile phones and things like that, instantly the information is passed all over the country and all over the world by people carrying mobile phones, cameras and things like that. But interpretations can be wrong. So for example, I'll give you a live example. When I was in the western sector somewhere, there was an incident where 2 rifles were found near a lake. Now, some of these media people have given mobile phones to all these gaon ke jo seniors hai, that bhai aisa kuch bhi ho jaye, wo photo lekar humko bhej dena. So we'll say, that breaking news and this, that and all. 2 rifles were found. That chap sent a message to one of the media and they said huge cache of arms was discovered in so-and-so place and the army is doing investigation, this, that. Only 2 rifles were found. And when we went and found, they were old rusted rifles of the Second World War, which must have been lying under the lake, all rusted and gone. So, there has to be some sort of a check on the media also, so that they don't fool the public of India. But otherwise, there is no restriction as far as the armed forces go. We try to give you the right news, not the corrupted news, so that you don't get a wrong impression of things. And as far as I know, in my experience of 40 years, we never hid anything by anyone. In fact, we have media interaction. In every formation, the head of the formation, that's like in Hyderabad, we have the Saberia headquarters here. The GOC interacts frequently with the media. He interacts frequently with the chief minister. And we discuss, it's called a liaison meeting, civil military liaison meeting. And we exchange ideas, views, anything they'd like us to help them out with or anything they want us to prepare for. Like floods are coming, Chief Minister may want us to get ready with our boats and things like that, or there is something, so there are a lot of interaction with media, there are a lot of interaction from time to time. But in the forward areas, we control it to this extent, we don't let false information go, but we don't block it to the best of my knowledge.
One question, sir. The question is, if a lady officer wants to join the army, to armed forces, have you to go through rigorous training and exam, or is it just the qualification is enough?
Yeah, I gave you about the 3 types of entries. Now, if you're a 10th, 12th class pass, you have to go through an all-India exam, which is there, which is basically general knowledge.
This is a lawyer. This is a lawyer who's asking.
Okay, if she's a lawyer, she doesn't have to appear in any exam. She will be selected based on her LLB marks. So if 30 girls apply and the vacancies are 10, the top 10 who have the highest marks, maybe 2-3 more as spare or reserve, will be called. They will be vetted. There'll be an interview conducted. Then they will go to a services selection board. We have these selection boards where they are evaluated, because we have people who have, mentally not fit and have come to selection boards to join the armed forces. I have a lot of stories I can tell you, because I was a GTO, a group testing officer in a selection board. Maybe for some other time, or when we meet, I could tell you some stories about that. But they go through that. And thereafter, a merit list is prepared, again, all India. And if she is in the merit list, she'll be called for training and improvement in her LLB and things. She'll be examined by a few lawyers of the army, and she can join the JAG branch, Judge Advocate General's branch of the Indian. Okay. So it's only based on her marks, no exam.
So Prachi Patwari has this question. How far is the army free from the control or the influence of the political parties?
In fact, I wanted to cover that, but then I thought it's a little controversial topic. I'll not talk about that. But you'll be very happy to know that since independence till today, the army is totally apolitical. Apolitical means totally not involved in politics, nor can the politicians try to interfere like they do in every other place. So we are very happy to say that we conduct our job without anybody coming even into the cantonments. We would even not like a politician to enter a cantonment as far as we can help it. And people have tried their best. Unfortunately, what has happened at times, even if we've had defense ministers who change every few years, unfortunately, and some of them are really not, don't know anything about defense. So those are the type of people, when they come in, they are there for a long. First, they like to see how they can extract from the army what all they can extract. Can some land of the army be sold to some relation of theirs or some friend of theirs? And he's the defense minister, so he tries to put pressure. I'm quoting, I've got a lot of personal and knowledgeable examples, but I won't give those now. But these are how politicians sort of try to interfere. But once they know that you're not going to listen to them, they stay away. And it's a win-win for both. He's happier, we are not too happy, but we are very happy. So there is no political interference in the armed forces since time immemorial, except maybe in the higher rank, not interference. When you're like selecting the chief of the army staff, the approval has to be given by the Prime Minister of India. We have a cabinet committee and things like that. They sit down and they select somebody as the chief of the army staff. That's very high, the highest levels of the country or the armed forces, but not at the lower levels. Day to day, there's absolutely not. In fact, we have a lot of interaction with politicians because in places like Manipur, Nagaland, Rajasthan, the local politician can help us at times. And they come to us when there's a flood. He would like to get the credit for it and we'll give him the credit. We do the work and we'll say, okay, you can do your vote bank politics. But so we get a lot of support from politicians also. It all depends on the individual personalities, how you handle them, how they handle you. Right.
Major question is, how do we convince and pacify our children? They feel very lonely and scared when the fathers or the mothers go to the join the armed forces and they go to the borders.
Okay, I'll tell you that. In fact, my daughter also said something. She wrote to me. I'll just let you know. Okay, anyway, there's a little bit of trauma, but I think that is everywhere. Even in a peace station or even in civil life, if the father goes on a temporary duty on a tour, the children always feel a little insecure. But like I told you, in the armed forces, we look after our people very well. And the children, because every 2 years, the father's posted out, we may go on a training. We go for 3 months to the desert and we practice every year for training. So that over a period of time, as the children grow, they get used to father being away, parents being away. And although they are away, that's why I said the mothers are very strong lady. Women, one can never estimate a woman's capabilities. And the mother takes on the role of the father and the mother, and she manages it. Of course, there's a little bit of that little loneliness. But like I told you, in the army, you get 2 months annually. So you come back, you spend 2 months with the family, you go back to the forward areas. If there's an emergency, you can come back on 20 days casually or 10 to 20 days. And there's a thing now where we get steady leave also. So in your career, you can take steady leave for 2 years and you can pursue MTech or MBA if you don't know those qualifications. So you're with your family for those 2 years also. And people time it in such a way that when the children are going into 10th or 12th, that is the time the father takes steady leave so that he can be with the child, encourage the child while studying and all for the exams and things like that. And the child feels nice that, papa's there or mama's there and available here to support me during my exam because they get a little nervous and things like that. So that's how it is. But the children, they have a good time. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll just read out what my daughter said of her opinion when I asked her that I've got to give this talk. My daughter's replied saying, okay, Papa, we'll just give you our views. I'll just tell you what my daughter said. She said, I never appreciated how much I learned by being an army officer's daughter till I left for the university and met people who'd rarely ever left their hometowns to visit the rest of India. Friends used to be aghast when I told them how many different schools I'd been to, how many pen pals I had. Never did I realize or appreciate that our house was no less than a mini museum with curios and mementos from so many parts of India, a reflection of the art and talent India has to offer. A life of privilege and opportunity is what the army offers not just to its officers, but to their families too. The values of sacrifice, respect, discipline, tolerance, unity, and above all, pride in one's country were instilled in us from the very beginning. Today, we hope we are able to be good role models for our children and pass on these very same values to them, whether inside or outside the armed forces. That's my daughter's email to me or WhatsApp message.
Wonderful.
So that's
Thank you so much.
welcome.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Which state in India has the maximum soldiers in the armed forces?
Well, you see, the states are of different sizes, but I think, I offhand, if I'm not wrong, it is Punjab, which has the most number of people in armed forces. I think second is Uttar Pradesh, UP, and these are, and Haryana, of course, Punjab, Haryana, UP. These are the three which contribute the maximum people to the armed forces. But in the nursing service, military nursing service, you find a lot of girls from Kerala. So from Kerala, it's a tradition to go into the medical stream or to go to Dubai and Middle East. So those who haven't gone abroad, they like to join the armed forces right on the way. So a lot of girls, if you go to a military hospital, you find many of the nurses, majority are from South India, primarily Kerala.
Okay, one person has written over here that my question to you is, what is your strength and what is your weakness as an army
Officer or an army soldier? I mean, it's the same.
No, it's personal to you. What is the weakness as an army officer for you?
Well, I think my strength is my wife and my children. And behind them, to back me up, is the armed forces, the organization. Even today, as a retired Major General, you're invited for all the functions. On your birthday, they send you a greeting, they send you a card. They haven't forgotten you. Like I said, old soldiers never die, they just fade away. So you're looked after by. So my strength is in my family and in the organization, which has been the larger family for us right through our life. We have no other family. So that is our strength. What is it? Well, really, there are no weaknesses because the army's made you strong physically, mentally, medically, in all ways, and has taught you so many things, right from yoga to various things. I mean, we've been running all our life, jogging all our life, and climbing mountains and hills and all that. So we are tough people. I mean, overall, and that has held us in good strength till now. But I think again, I should say the weakness are my daughters.
Okay. Okay, one more question. Are women sent to the sensitive areas?
Yes. What has happened? I've told you, right on the borders where we are facing the enemy, I mean, eyeball to eyeball, like in China, like against the Chinese or against the Pakistanis, we are still not sending women into combat. That is only in the infantry, which is really the teeth of the army, the fighting people who fight every day, and the armored corps, because they will move, if there's a war, they will move straight into the other country with their tanks and deep into the countries. So those are the places where it is still, we have not yet adjusted to having women in the combat arms. But everywhere else, the women are free to join and are given all the respect and regard as they would get anywhere else in civil too. So they're only in the combat arms, they're not allowed to join. But recently the Supreme Court has also said that they should also be given command assignments. That means they should be able to command men. And command men mean an infantry battalion or an E&E battalion, my battalion, has about 800 men and just about 8-9 officers and a CO. And she becomes a CO. Well, you've got to listen to her. She's the CO. It's the rank that we respect, apart from her being a woman. It's the rank that we respect. And if she has become a CO, she's a very capable lady, and she's sort of come up the hard way and competed against the men to rise to that rank. So kudos to her, all credit to her, and we're going to follow her, lay down our lives if required for her. Because CEO is the my bap, or the whatever you can say, godfather of the organization.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like now, you have to judge the best question for the lady Sanskruti. From the chat box, the questions I've asked you. Which question? Then we would find the person who asked the question.
I've got to think back, but the challenges to the armed forces was given by you or by one of the ladies?
I had asked you that, but then you have to ask from, generally there were so many questions.
Many questions. I have to think back. Could you just you know the question? You just tell me and I'll tell you the most important.
If you go in the chat box, you can see, sir.
Okay, I
You
don't
can
want
go
to
to the
get
chat. Just
only
scroll.
my worry is I shouldn't get disconnected, because if I fiddle around too much here, I'm not too confident. Things will go away. But I think only, you asked about the leadership roles for the women and things like that. If anybody's asked somebody asked that sort of a question.
Aarti?
What role of women?
Yes.
Did somebody ask that question of leadership roles?
The women's roles in the armed forces and things like that.
Women's roles in the armed forces. That was asked by us. By
Yes,
me.
that's what. Yes.
That was my question.
Yes.
Okay. How do I go to the chat now? I'll have to see.
Maybe we can send you the questions. Aarti will send you the questions.
Okay. Can you just separately
Maybe
name the things?
questions. Yeah, I'll just tell you the questions, sir. What are the questions? Okay, sir.
I would like a question, the one which is more all-encompassing, not specifically like LLB or things like that. Not individual question. A question covering a larger canvas of the armed forces. Any question? Somebody has done that.
Yes, I'll just tell you the questions, sir, if you want.
Yeah, please. Just read out the.
Which is the best training center in India? Is it difficult to get in?
Okay, that's a personal question.
Do genetic daily life instincts help in the field or in the technical fields? Do the approaches differ among the group members and how are they handled?
Okay.
Which is the best training center in India? Is it difficult to get in?
Okay, that is okay.
Do generic daily life instincts help in the field or in the technical fields? Do the approaches differ among the group members? The same, yeah.
Yeah, you covered that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
How far is the army free from the control or the influence of the political parties?
Okay, that's a touchy question. Yeah. But not the best question.
How civilians can help over forces in their possible ways?
Okay.
Then,
I think you take the second question, which you repeated twice.
The genetic daily life instincts?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I would like to end this program, my questions with you with a little couplet. I just jotted it down, and it's a salute to all of us and to the armed forces forever. माँ बाप की सेवा से मिट जाते हैं कष्ट, किंतु राष्ट्र की भक्ति से मिल जाता है इष्ट, त्याग दे निज जीवन को, पाता है सम्मान छोड़कर तन मन धन को, कहे हीरा सुन लो बात मेरी ए हिंदुस्तानी, कर चुकाओ धरती का जिसने दिया है हमें अन्न जल और पानी.
Very good. बहुत cool. Yeah, very nice.
That was so lovely, Hiraji.
Thank you.
So the lady Sanskruti goes to Sheetal Shah. Congratulations, Sheetal Shah. Thank you, sir. Amazing session. We all salute you, Major General Ravi Khetarpal ji, for serving the nation so selflessly. So thrilled to be part of this session today. Inspiring session, and really appreciate you for your insight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Hiraji, it was an excellent and exceptionally well taken forward conversation. So smoothly and thought-provoking and interesting questions. Thank you. Our pride for our country should not come after our country, because our country becomes great because of our pride in it. Let our pride of our country should not come after our country becomes great. Our country becomes great because of our pride in it. Let's make nation building a people's movement. Let's all together fight the pandemic times. One mission, one nation. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Now, I invite our treasurer, Ms. Zeni Momaya, to give the vote of thanks. Over to you, Zeni.
Thank you, Aarti. Namaskar. On behalf of Sanskruti, I would salute our respected Chief, Major General Ravi
Thank
Khetarpal.
you.
Thank you, sir, for not only sparing your valuable time, but also giving us such an inspirational knowledge and guidance. As here, I remember Gandhiji's quote that India will attain her true independence when a woman can walk alone at midnight. And that's why, as you said, Indian Women Army Training is a wonderful initiative. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pallavi ji, for rendering blissful prayer and bhajan. Thanking our talented member, Hira Rupani ji, for being a wonderful moderator today. Thank you, Pranay, for running today's virtual meet so smoothly and efficiently. Thanking our each and every member and guests logged in today so attentively. Your support is our strength. Stay strong, stay safe. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The chat box, the link is open for some time for the members to chat.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It
sir.
was a pleasure.